A lonely businessman, blind for years, lived surrounded by luxury but trapped in complete darkness. Everything changes when a poor girl invades his garden and says firmly, "I can heal your eyes." He laughs, doubting her, until strange events and revelations begin to dismantle the world around him. What seemed impossible becomes his only way out, but trusting her could cost him much more than just his sight. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawns of the Anderson estate, nestled in the exclusive hills overlooking Seattle. For Maxwell Anderson, however, these shadows had become his permanent reality. The tech mogul and founder of NeuroSync Industries hadn't seen daylight, shadows, or anything at all for the past 5 years. The sailing accident off the coast of Malibu had stolen his sight, but not his determination to maintain control over the empire he'd built from nothing. Max, as his few friends called him, moved with practiced precision through his bedroom. His fingers traced the edge of his nightstand, finding his watch, a luxury timepiece with raised markers he could feel. 6:30 a.m., right on schedule. He didn't need to see to maintain order. Structure had become his eyes. "Good morning, Mr. Anderson," called Martha, his housekeeper of 20 years. Her voice, warm and familiar, carried from the doorway. "Mrs. Parker asked me to inform you she'll be returning from her trip this afternoon. Your breakfast is ready in the dining room." Max nodded, his face expressionless. "Thank you, Martha. Has Dr. Reynolds called about the test results?" "No, sir. Nothing yet." Max sighed. Another specialist, another dead end. 5 years of consultations with the world's leading ophthalmologists had yielded nothing but astronomical bills and hollow sympathy. The damage to his optic nerve was irreversible, they said. A word he'd grown to despise. Martha helped him select his clothes, a navy suit, white shirt, and a silk tie. Even in solitude, Maxwell Anderson maintained appearances. Old habits from board meetings and investor pitches died hard. Besides, dressing sharply was one of the few remnants of normalcy he clung to. After breakfast, Max made his way to his study. Guided by the smooth wooden handrail his fingers knew intimately. The house had been extensively modified after his accident. Textured walls, strategically placed furniture, voice-activated technology, everything designed to give him independence, an illusion of control. He settled behind his desk and pressed a button. "Play messages." The AI assistant's voice filled the room. 3 messages from his financial advisor about quarterly reports. 1 from his physiotherapist rescheduling tomorrow's session, and 1 from Olivia, his fiancée. "Hey, baby," her voice purred through the speaker. "The conference is wrapping up early. I'll be home this afternoon instead of tomorrow. Can't wait to see you. I have a surprise." Max smiled faintly. Olivia Parker had entered his life 3 years ago as his home care assistant. Young, vibrant, and attentive, she quickly became essential to him. Their romance had developed naturally, or so he believed. In a world of darkness, her voice had become his sun, her touch, his anchor. Now they were engaged to be married next spring. Yet lately, something felt off. Small inconsistencies in her stories, extended absences, the subtle shift in her tone when discussing their future together. Max had developed heightened senses since losing his sight, and his instincts were sending warning signals he couldn't ignore. "Computer, call Thomas Wheaton," Max commanded. A brief pause. "Connecting to Thomas Wheaton," the system replied. Thomas had been Max's attorney and friend for over 2 decades. If anyone could help him make sense of his growing unease, it would be Thomas. But instead of Thomas's gruff greeting, a woman's voice answered. "Mr. Wheaton's office." "This is Maxwell Anderson. I'd like to speak with Thomas." "I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Wheaton is currently unavailable. He suffered a stroke last week and is in recovery. Mr. Lancaster is handling his clients temporarily. Would you like me to connect you?" Max felt his chest tighten. Thomas, unavailable, a stroke? Why hadn't he been informed? "No, that won't be necessary. Please have Mr. Lancaster call me back at his earliest convenience." He ended the call, unsettled. Thomas was only 62, in excellent health. The timing seemed suspicious, especially considering Max had been planning to review his estate planning with Thomas this month. Max stood and made his way to the large bay window. Though he couldn't see the sweeping view of Puget Sound below, he could feel the warmth of sunlight on his face and hear the distant ferry horns. This window, like so many things in his life now, was more memory than reality. The sound of the garden door opening interrupted his thoughts. Martha's familiar footsteps approached. "Mr. Anderson, there's a situation outside. A child somehow got past the gate. Security is handling it, but she's asking for you specifically. Says her name is Lily Thompson." Max turned, his brow furrowed. "Thompson? I don't know any Thompsons. What does she want?" "She says," Martha hesitated, her voice dropping to a whisper. "She says her father can help you see again." Max laughed bitterly. "Another miracle worker? Tell security to escort her out." "Kindly, Martha, she's just a child." "Yes, sir, although—" Martha paused again. "What is it?" "She mentioned something about neural implants. Said her father developed a new technology. I thought, given your company's work in neural interfaces—" Max stilled. NeuroSync had indeed been researching neural interfaces before his accident, though for different applications. The coincidence was too specific to dismiss entirely. "How old is this girl?" "About 11, I'd guess." "Bring her to the garden. I'll meet with her briefly." 20 minutes later, Max sat on a bench beneath the old oak tree, its branches creating a canopy he could sense but not see. The scent of roses from nearby bushes filled the air. This spot, this garden, had become his sanctuary, a place where his other senses could fully engage with the world. He heard them approach, Martha's measured steps and the lighter, quicker footfalls of a child. They stopped a few feet away. "Mr. Anderson," Martha announced, "this is Lily Thompson." "Thank you, Martha. You can leave us." After Martha's retreating footsteps faded, Max turned his face toward where he presumed the girl stood. "Hello, Lily Thompson. I'm told you have something to say to me." "You're blind," the girl stated plainly, her voice clear and unafraid. "But you don't have to be." The directness caught him off guard. No pity, no hesitation, just simple, childlike forthrightness. "Many doctors have told me otherwise," Max replied carefully. "They're wrong," Lily said, moving closer. Max heard her settle on the bench beside him. "My dad can fix your eyes." "Well, not your eyes exactly, but he can make you see again." "And who is your father?" "Dr. James Thompson. He used to be the head of neurosurgery at Seattle Memorial until they kicked him out for his research. Now we live in our car sometimes or with friends when it gets cold." Max frowned. The girl's story seemed implausible, yet her voice carried absolute conviction. "If your father is such a brilliant doctor, why would he send his daughter to trespass on private property instead of approaching me properly?" "He didn't send me," Lily said, a hint of defiance in her voice. "He doesn't know I'm here. I found out who you were from the library computers. Your company makes brain computers and you're blind. Dad needs someone who understands both." Max couldn't help but smile at her description of neural interfaces as brain computers. Despite his skepticism, he found himself intrigued by the girl's determination. "What makes you think I'd trust an experimental treatment from someone I've never met?" "Because you're desperate," Lily answered simply. "And because it works. Dad tested it on monkeys. They could navigate obstacle courses blindfolded using just the implant. He says human trials are the next step, but no one will fund him because the big hospitals make more money from ongoing treatments than cures." The cynicism in her young voice struck Max. There was truth there. He'd seen how pharmaceutical companies operated. "Where is your father now?" Max asked. "At the public library. He uses their computers to continue his research. We go there every Tuesday and Thursday." Max considered his options. The logical part of his brain screamed caution, but something about the girl's straightforward manner resonated with him. "Lily, I appreciate your initiative, but I can't simply—" "I brought proof," she interrupted. And Max heard the rustle of paper. "I can't give you these because Dad needs them, but I can read them to you. They're his research notes and diagrams. I understand most of it. Dad teaches me everything." For the next 15 minutes, Max listened as Lily read complex neurological terms and described intricate procedures with the fluency of a medical student. Either this was an elaborate hoax, or the child prodigy sitting beside him was indeed the daughter of a brilliant, if unorthodox, surgeon. As she finished, Max heard the distant sound of the front gates opening. Olivia was home. "Lily, I need to think about this. Can you come back tomorrow?" "Same time?" she asked eagerly. "Yes, but use the front gate next time. Tell security I'm expecting you." As Lily's footsteps faded away, Max remained on the bench, his mind racing with possibilities. For the first time in years, something had pierced the resignation that had settled over him like a shroud. Hope was dangerous. Hope could break you. But maybe, just maybe, this strange encounter was the beginning of something that would change everything. From the main house he heard Olivia calling his name, her voice carrying across the garden. Max stood, his cane finding the familiar path back to the house, back to his beautiful fiancée, back to the life he'd built in darkness. Unknown to him, this day marked the beginning of a journey that would reveal not just the world to his eyes, but the truth hidden in plain sight. The sound of Olivia's designer heels clicked against the marble floor as she approached. Max could detect her signature perfume, Chanel No. 5, before she reached him. Once that scent had been intoxicating. Now something about it felt like a mask. "There you are, darling," Olivia exclaimed, her arms encircling him. "I've missed you terribly." Max returned her embrace, noticing how she held herself slightly away from him, a subtle change that would have been imperceptible to him before the accident. "Welcome home. How was New York?" "Exhausting," she sighed, leading him back toward the house. "The wellness conference went longer than expected, but I brought you something special from that bakery you loved when you could still—" She trailed off. "When I could still see." Max finished for her, keeping his tone light. "It's okay, Olivia. You don't have to tiptoe around it." Inside, Martha had prepared lunch on the terrace. The afternoon was unusually warm for Seattle in early fall, and Max could feel the gentle breeze against his face as they ate. Olivia dominated the conversation with stories of Manhattan, fashion trends, and celebrity sightings, a world that felt increasingly distant to Max. "Oh, and guess who I ran into?" Olivia said between bites of salad. "Richard Blackwood. Remember him?" Max set down his fork. Richard Blackwood had been NeuroSync's CFO until Max had discovered financial discrepancies 5 years ago, shortly before his accident. Though never proven, Max had suspected Richard of embezzlement and forced him to resign. "What was Blackwood doing at a wellness conference?" Max asked carefully. "He's reinvented himself," Olivia laughed. "He's into investment consulting for medical startups now. Said he'd love to catch up with you sometime, no hard feelings." "I'm sure he would," Max replied dryly. "Did he happen to mention which startups he's working with?" "Oh, you know I don't follow all that business talk," Olivia dismissed. "Something about neural something, your world, not mine." Max nodded, filing away this information. The coincidence seemed too precise to ignore. Richard reappearing in Olivia's orbit, involved with neural technology. The same day a strange child appears, offering a neural solution to his blindness. After lunch, Max excused himself to his study, claiming he needed to review some company documents. In reality, he needed time to think. He closed the door and activated the room's soundproofing system. "Computer, call Janet Stevens at NeuroSync headquarters." Janet had been his executive assistant for a decade, one of the few people he still trusted implicitly. "Max!" Janet's voice greeted him warmly. "I was just about to call you. The board meeting has been rescheduled again." "By whom?" Max asked, surprised. As majority shareholder and chairman, he should have been consulted. "The notification came from Olivia's office. She said you were having medical tests and needed to rest." Max frowned. He had no scheduled medical tests. "Janet, I need you to do something discreetly. Look up everything you can find on a Dr. James Thompson, formerly of Seattle Memorial Neurosurgery Department." "May I ask why?" "Let's call it a potential research collaboration. Also, has there been any unusual activity with the company shares recently?" "Nothing significant," Janet replied. "Though Mr. Chen did mention that a holding company called Horizon Ventures has been gradually acquiring small blocks of NeuroSync stock over the past 6 months. Horizon Ventures? I'm not familiar with them. They're new, registered in Delaware about 8 months ago. Very little public information available." Max thanked Janet and ended the call, his unease growing. He moved to his desk and ran his fingers over the raised topography of his calendar. Tomorrow was Tuesday, the day Lily had said her father would be at the public library. The next morning, Max told Olivia he had a physiotherapy appointment. She offered to drive him, but he insisted on using his regular driver, Michael, who had been with him for over a decade. What he didn't tell her was that he had no appointment scheduled. "The Central Library, please, Michael," Max directed once they were in the car. "Sir?" Michael sounded surprised. "You haven't been to the library since I went blind?" Max smiled wryly. "Yes, I'm aware of the irony. Nevertheless, that's where we're going." The Seattle Central Library was a modern architectural marvel that Max remembered well from his sighted days. Its distinctive glass and steel geometric design had always fascinated him. Now, as Michael guided him through the entrance, Max focused on the acoustics, the vast open spaces, the murmur of voices bouncing off angular walls, the subtle hum of computers. "I'm looking for a Dr. Thompson," Max told the information desk attendant. "He's a regular visitor, usually uses the computers." "Oh, you mean Dr. Jim and little Lily?" the woman replied warmly. "They're in the technology section, 3rd floor. Such a brilliant man, though." She lowered her voice. "His circumstances are quite unfortunate. Would you like assistance finding him?" Max nodded, and a library aide was called to escort him to the elevator and through the labyrinth of bookshelves. As they approached, Max heard a child's voice, unmistakably Lily's, excitedly explaining something. "The neural pathways connect here, Dad. But wouldn't it cause signal interference with the visual cortex? Not if we reroute through the secondary processing center," a deeper voice replied patiently. "Remember what we discussed about neuroplasticity?" The aide cleared his throat. "Dr. Thompson? Someone here to see you." There was a moment of silence, then a chair scraped against the floor. "Mr. Anderson," Lily whispered loudly, excitement evident in her voice. "You came." "Maxwell Anderson?" The man's voice held surprise and a note of suspicion. "What would the founder of NeuroSync want with me?" Max extended his hand in the direction of the voice. "Dr. Thompson, I believe your daughter paid me a visit yesterday with some extraordinary claims about your research. I thought it warranted a conversation." After a moment's hesitation, Max felt a firm hand grasp his. "James Thompson, though I'm curious how you found us so quickly." "Your daughter mentioned your Tuesday library schedule," Max explained. "May we sit down? I have questions about your neural implant technology." For the next hour, Dr. Thompson described his groundbreaking approach to neural interfaces, a method that bypassed damaged optic nerves entirely, creating a direct connection between specialized cameras and the visual cortex. Unlike existing experimental treatments, his approach utilized the brain's natural adaptability. "The traditional medical establishment rejected it as too radical," James explained bitterly. "They claimed the risks outweighed the benefits, but the truth is, there's no profit in a one-time cure." "Dad was the youngest head of neurosurgery ever at Seattle Memorial," Lily interjected proudly, "until they pushed him out." "And now?" Max asked quietly. James sighed. "Now I work odd jobs in clinics when I can. We stay with friends, sometimes in our car, but I continue the research whenever possible. The library provides computer access and journal subscriptions I could never afford." Max leaned forward, intrigued despite his lingering skepticism. "You've tested this on primates?" "Yes, with remarkable success. The monkeys navigated complex environments using only the visual information from the implant. But human trials require resources I don't have: lab space, equipment, regulatory approvals." "What if I could provide those resources?" Max suggested. "NeuroSync has the facilities, the connections with regulatory bodies, and the capital." "Why would you do that?" James asked cautiously. "For the obvious reason," Max replied. "I want to see again. But beyond that, if your technology works as described, it could help millions. That's what NeuroSync was founded for, using neural technology to improve lives." "It's not that simple," James warned. "There are complications." "What kind of complications?" James hesitated. "Some powerful interests have made it clear my research should remain theoretical. When I persisted, I lost my job, my reputation, and nearly my freedom. False accusations of research misconduct are difficult to disprove when evidence disappears." Max frowned. "Are you suggesting corporate sabotage?" "I'm stating facts. 3 days after presenting my initial findings to the hospital board, my lab was ransacked, key data stolen. A week later, I was under investigation for falsifying research data. By month's end, I was unemployable in any major medical institution." The conversation was interrupted by Lily's excited gasp. "Dad, Mr. Anderson could fund your research privately, just like you always wanted. James shushed her gently. Lily, it's more complicated than that. Actually, Max said slowly, she might be right. A private research arrangement could bypass institutional obstacles. I have a fully equipped lab facility at my estate that's been sitting unused. Originally designed for prototype testing, but it could be adapted. Mr. Anderson, James said gravely, if we pursue this, you need to understand the risks, not just the medical risks of the procedure, but the opposition we might face. I'm no stranger to corporate warfare, Dr. Thompson. This goes beyond corporate competition, James insisted. After I was forced out, I received warnings to abandon the research entirely. When I continued privately, my wife left with our older children, afraid of the threats. Only Lily stayed with me. Lily reached over and squeezed her father's hand. Mom and the others just didn't understand how important Dad's work is. Max considered this information carefully. The scenario seemed increasingly complex, yet something about James Thompson's story rang true, perhaps because it echoed concerns Max himself had harbored about certain healthcare conglomerates. Dr. Thompson, I propose a 2-week trial period. You'll stay in the guest house at my estate, review my facilities, and we'll determine if a collaboration is viable. No commitment beyond that initially. And what do you get from these 2 weeks? James asked. An assessment of whether your technology is as promising as it sounds, Max replied honestly, and perhaps some answers about who might want to suppress it. As they stood to leave, Max felt Lily slip something into his hand, a small folded piece of paper. What's this? He asked quietly. Proof, she whispered, in case you're still not sure about us. Later, in the car, Max had Michael read the note to him. It contained a sequence of technical specifications for a neural implant prototype, details so specific and advanced they couldn't have been fabricated by a layperson. At the bottom was a handwritten message: Search NeuroSync Server Archive, Project Prometheus, 2018. The connection will become clear. JT. Max felt a chill. Project Prometheus had been a classified NeuroSync initiative exploring the limits of neural interface technology, terminated shortly before his accident and never discussed publicly. How could James Thompson possibly know about it? Back at the estate, Max found Olivia waiting in the foyer, arms crossed. The physiotherapy center called to confirm your appointment for next week, she said, her voice tense. Funny, since you were supposedly there today. Max maintained his composure, years of business negotiations serving him well. I had a different appointment, one I preferred to keep private for now. We don't keep secrets from each other, Max, Olivia said, moving closer. Not after everything we've been through. As she embraced him, Max thought of the note in his pocket, of Dr. Thompson's warnings, of Richard Blackwood's sudden reappearance. For the first time, he wondered if the darkness surrounding him extended far beyond his eyes. The sound of Olivia's designer heels clicked against the marble floor as she approached. Max could detect her signature perfume, Chanel No. 5, before she reached him. Once that scent had been intoxicating. Now something about it felt like a mask. There you are, darling, Olivia exclaimed, her arms encircling him. I've missed you terribly. Max returned her embrace, noticing how she held herself slightly away from him, a subtle change that would have been imperceptible to him before the accident. Welcome home. How was New York? Exhausting, she sighed, leading him back toward the house. The wellness conference went longer than expected, but I brought you something special from that bakery you loved when you could still... She trailed off. When I could still see. Max finished for her, keeping his tone light. It's okay, Olivia. You don't have to tiptoe around it. Inside, Martha had prepared lunch on the terrace. The afternoon was unusually warm for Seattle in early fall, and Max could feel the gentle breeze against his face as they ate. Olivia dominated the conversation with stories of Manhattan, fashion trends, and celebrity sightings, a world that felt increasingly distant to Max. Oh, and guess who I ran into? Olivia said between bites of salad. Richard Blackwood. Remember him? Max set down his fork. Richard Blackwood had been NeuroSync's CFO until Max had discovered financial discrepancies 5 years ago, shortly before his accident. Though never proven, Max had suspected Richard of embezzlement and forced him to resign. What was Blackwood doing at a wellness conference? Max asked carefully. He's reinvented himself, Olivia laughed. He's into investment consulting for medical startups now. Said he'd love to catch up with you sometime, no hard feelings. I'm sure he would, Max replied dryly. Did he happen to mention which startups he's working with? Oh, you know I don't follow all that business talk, Olivia dismissed. Something about neural something, your world not mine. Max nodded, filing away this information. The coincidence seemed too precise to ignore. Richard reappearing in Olivia's orbit, involved with neural technology. The same day a strange child appears, offering a neural solution to his blindness. After lunch, Max excused himself to his study, claiming he needed to review some company documents. In reality, he needed time to think. He closed the door and activated the room's soundproofing system. Computer, call Janet Stevens at NeuroSync headquarters. Janet had been his executive assistant for a decade, one of the few people he still trusted implicitly. Max, Janet's voice greeted him warmly. I was just about to call you. The board meeting has been rescheduled again. By whom? Max asked, surprised. As majority shareholder and chairman, he should have been consulted. The notification came from Olivia's office. She said you were having medical tests and needed to rest. Max frowned. He had no scheduled medical tests. Janet, I need you to do something discreetly. Look up everything you can find on a Dr. James Thompson, formerly of Seattle Memorial Neurosurgery Department. May I ask why? Let's call it a potential research collaboration. Also, has there been any unusual activity with the company shares recently? Nothing significant, Janet replied. Though Mr. Chen did mention that a holding company called Horizon Ventures has been gradually acquiring small blocks of NeuroSync stock over the past 6 months. Horizon Ventures? I'm not familiar with them. They're new, registered in Delaware about 8 months ago. Very little public information available. Max thanked Janet and ended the call, his unease growing. He moved to his desk and ran his fingers over the raised topography of his calendar. Tomorrow was Tuesday, the day Lily had said her father would be at the public library. The next morning, Max told Olivia he had a physiotherapy appointment. She offered to drive him, but he insisted on using his regular driver, Michael, who had been with him for over a decade. What he didn't tell her was that he had no appointment scheduled. The Central Library, please, Michael, Max directed once they were in the car. Sir? Michael sounded surprised. You haven't been to the library since I went blind? Max smiled wryly. Yes, I'm aware of the irony. Nevertheless, that's where we're going. The Seattle Central Library was a modern architectural marvel that Max remembered well from his sighted days. Its distinctive glass and steel geometric design had always fascinated him. Now, as Michael guided him through the entrance, Max focused on the acoustics, the vast open spaces, the murmur of voices bouncing off angular walls, the subtle hum of computers. I'm looking for a Dr. Thompson, Max told the information desk attendant. He's a regular visitor, usually uses the computers. Oh, you mean Dr. Jim and little Lily? The woman replied warmly. They're in the technology section, 3rd floor. Such a brilliant man, though. She lowered her voice. His circumstances are quite unfortunate. Would you like assistance finding him? Max nodded, and a library aide was called to escort him to the elevator and through the labyrinth of bookshelves. As they approached, Max heard a child's voice, unmistakably Lily's, excitedly explaining something. The neural pathways connect here, Dad. But wouldn't it cause signal interference with the visual cortex? Not if we reroute through the secondary processing center, a deeper voice replied patiently. Remember what we discussed about neuroplasticity? The aide cleared his throat. Dr. Thompson? Someone here to see you. There was a moment of silence, then a chair scraped against the floor. Mr. Anderson, Lily whispered loudly, excitement evident in her voice. You came. Maxwell Anderson? The man's voice held surprise and a note of suspicion. What would the founder of NeuroSync want with me? Max extended his hand in the direction of the voice. Dr. Thompson, I believe your daughter paid me a visit yesterday with some extraordinary claims about your research. I thought it warranted a conversation. After a moment's hesitation, Max felt a firm hand grasp his. James Thompson, though I'm curious how you found us so quickly. Your daughter mentioned your Tuesday library schedule, Max explained. May we sit down? I have questions about your neural implant technology. For the next hour, Dr. Thompson described his groundbreaking approach to neural interfaces, a method that bypassed damaged optic nerves entirely, creating a direct connection between specialized cameras and the visual cortex. Unlike existing experimental treatments, his approach utilized the brain's natural adaptability. The traditional medical establishment rejected it as too radical, James explained bitterly. They claimed the risks outweighed the benefits, but the truth is, there's no profit in a one-time cure. Dad was the youngest head of neurosurgery ever at Seattle Memorial, Lily interjected proudly, until they pushed him out. And now? Max asked quietly. James sighed. Now I work odd jobs in clinics when I can. We stay with friends, sometimes in our car, but I continue the research whenever possible. The library provides computer access and journal subscriptions I could never afford. Max leaned forward, intrigued despite his lingering skepticism. You've tested this on primates? Yes, with remarkable success. The monkeys navigated complex environments using only the visual information from the implant. But human trials require resources I don't have: lab space, equipment, regulatory approvals. What if I could provide those resources? Max suggested. NeuroSync has the facilities, the connections with regulatory bodies, and the capital. Why would you do that? James asked cautiously. For the obvious reason, Max replied. I want to see again. But beyond that, if your technology works as described, it could help millions. That's what NeuroSync was founded for, using neural technology to improve lives. It's not that simple, James warned. There are complications. What kind of complications? James hesitated. Some powerful interests have made it clear my research should remain theoretical. When I persisted, I lost my job, my reputation, and nearly my freedom. False accusations of research misconduct are difficult to disprove when evidence disappears. Max frowned. Are you suggesting corporate sabotage? I'm stating facts. 3 days after presenting my initial findings to the hospital board, my lab was ransacked, key data stolen. A week later, I was under investigation for falsifying research data. By month's end, I was unemployable in any major medical institution. The conversation was interrupted by Lily's excited gasp. Dad, Mr. Anderson could fund your research privately, just like you always wanted. James shushed her gently. Lily, it's more complicated than that. Actually, Max said slowly, she might be right. A private research arrangement could bypass institutional obstacles. I have a fully equipped lab facility at my estate that's been sitting unused. Originally designed for prototype testing, but it could be adapted. Mr. Anderson, James said gravely, if we pursue this, you need to understand the risks, not just the medical risks of the procedure, but the opposition we might face. I'm no stranger to corporate warfare, Dr. Thompson. This goes beyond corporate competition, James insisted. After I was forced out, I received warnings to abandon the research entirely. When I continued privately, my wife left with our older children, afraid of the threats. Only Lily stayed with me. Lily reached over and squeezed her father's hand. Mom and the others just didn't understand how important Dad's work is. Max considered this information carefully. The scenario seemed increasingly complex, yet something about James Thompson's story rang true, perhaps because it echoed concerns Max himself had harbored about certain healthcare conglomerates. Dr. Thompson, I propose a 2-week trial period. You'll stay in the guest house at my estate, review my facilities, and we'll determine if a collaboration is viable. No commitment beyond that initially. And what do you get from these 2 weeks? James asked. An assessment of whether your technology is as promising as it sounds, Max replied honestly, and perhaps some answers about who might want to suppress it. As they stood to leave, Max felt Lily slip something into his hand, a small folded piece of paper. What's this? He asked quietly. Proof, she whispered, in case you're still not sure about us. Later, in the car, Max had Michael read the note to him. It contained a sequence of technical specifications for a neural implant prototype, details so specific and advanced they couldn't have been fabricated by a layperson. At the bottom was a handwritten message: Search NeuroSync Server Archive, Project Prometheus, 2018. The connection will become clear. JT. Max felt a chill. Project Prometheus had been a classified NeuroSync initiative exploring the limits of neural interface technology, terminated shortly before his accident and never discussed publicly. How could James Thompson possibly know about it? Back at the estate, Max found Olivia waiting in the foyer, arms crossed. The physiotherapy center called to confirm your appointment for next week, she said. her voice tense. Funny, since you were supposedly there today. Max maintained his composure, years of business negotiations serving him well. I had a different appointment, one I preferred to keep private for now. We don't keep secrets from each other, Max, Olivia said, moving closer, and not after everything we've been through. As she embraced him, Max thought of the note in his pocket, of Dr. Thompson's warnings, of Richard Blackwood's sudden reappearance. For the first time, he wondered if the darkness surrounding him extended far beyond his eyes. The next morning brought a steady Seattle rain, drumming against the windows of the Anderson estate. Max stood in the foyer, listening to the approaching vehicle on the gravel driveway. Beside him, Martha waited silently, while Olivia had conveniently scheduled a spa appointment in the city. "They're here, sir," Martha announced, as headlights flashed through the windows. "Michael is helping them with their luggage." Moments later, the front door opened, bringing with it the scent of rain and the unmistakable energy of Lily Thompson. "Mr. Anderson," the girl called out excitedly, "we brought all Dad's research. Our car is super old, but Michael said it can stay in your garage." Max smiled at her enthusiasm. "Welcome to my home, Lily. Dr. Thompson." "Please call me James." The doctor's voice came from near the doorway, sounding slightly overwhelmed. "Your home is quite impressive." "Let Martha show you to the guest house," Max suggested. "Get settled in, and then perhaps we can discuss next steps over lunch." As Martha led them away, Max returned to his study. He'd spent the morning reviewing the Prometheus files Janet had recovered, finding more connections between the project and Thompson's research. Both had focused on similar neural mapping techniques, though Thompson's approach was more elegant, more innovative. It suggested that NeuroSync might have been aware of Thompson's work before his disgrace, perhaps even drawing inspiration from it. The secure phone on his desk chimed, a rare occurrence. Few people had this number. "Anderson," he answered. "It's Frank Reynolds," the familiar voice replied without preamble. "Got your message. Wasn't sure I'd hear from you again." "Frank." Max felt relief wash over him. "I need your help." "So I gathered." Not a social call after 3 years of silence. The edge in Frank's voice was justified. After his dismissal, Max had made no attempt to contact him, accepting Olivia's explanation that Frank had become paranoid and difficult. "I owe you an apology," Max said. "I've recently discovered that many things I believed to be true weren't." A pause. "Go on. I believe I'm in danger, Frank. The kind you used to warn me about." Frank's laugh was humorless. "Do you mean the kind I was fired for warning you about? The paranoid conspiracy theories your lovely fiancé reported to the board?" "Yes," Max admitted. "Those exact ones." Another pause, longer this time. "What changed your mind?" Max outlined the events of the past few days, the arrival of Lily Thompson, the discovery about Project Prometheus, the connections to Richard Blackwood, and the systematic isolation he now recognized had been orchestrated around him. "Jesus, Max," Frank said when he finished. "You're in deeper than you realize. Richard Blackwood isn't just a corporate shark. He has connections to some serious players in the pharmaceutical world. Horizon Ventures is a shell company for Globe Tech Pharmaceuticals. Globe Tech, one of the largest medical technology conglomerates in the world and a longtime competitor of NeuroSync." The connection sent a chill through Max. "What do you need from me?" Frank asked. "Security assessment of my home and property, background verification on James Thompson, and..." Max hesitated. "Surveillance on Olivia Parker, the fiancée. You sure about that?" "Increasingly so. I'll be there this afternoon," Frank said. "Don't tell anyone I'm coming, not even the staff you think you can trust." The line went dead, leaving Max with a mixture of dread and determination. Frank's quick agreement suggested he'd been expecting this call, perhaps even waiting for it. At noon, Max joined the Thompsons for lunch on the covered patio, where they could listen to the rain while staying dry. Lily chatted excitedly about the guest house, the awesome technology throughout the property, and the collection of tactile art pieces Max had acquired since losing his sight. "These sculptures are incredible," James commented. "I've never seen such detailed work." "Ironic, isn't it?" Max smiled. "I've become a collector of art I can't see, but I can feel the textures, the shapes. It's a different kind of appreciation." "That's exactly how the neural interface works," Lily interjected eagerly. "It doesn't restore natural vision. It creates a new kind of seeing. Right, Dad?" In simplified terms, yes, James agreed. Traditional approaches try to repair damaged visual pathways. My method bypasses them entirely, creating new connections. The brain adapts remarkably quickly to the new input channels. I've reviewed the information you provided, Max said. It's consistent with research directions we explored at NeuroSync years ago, but your approach is more advanced, more elegant. James was quiet for a moment. That's because I had access to your research as well. Max set down his fork. Explain. Project Prometheus, James said simply. Some of your early papers were published in medical journals before the project went dark. I built upon those foundations, but took it in a direction your team hadn't considered. The military applications weren't your idea then? Military? James sounded genuinely surprised. No. My focus was always medical, helping people with visual impairments, not creating super soldiers with enhanced vision. This confirmed Max's suspicion that the project had been diverted from its original purpose after he stepped back from day-to-day oversight. Dad hates weapons, Lily added firmly. He won't even let me play shooting games. Max smiled at her loyalty. James, I need to know exactly what happened at Seattle Memorial, the real story. Over the next hour, James detailed his fall from grace, how he'd developed a breakthrough in neural interface technology, presented it to the hospital board, and within days, found himself under investigation. How evidence against him had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, how colleagues had turned against him overnight. The most damning part was the falsified data that appeared in my research files, James explained. Data sets that showed impossibly perfect results. Results no legitimate researcher would believe. Someone had accessed my files and planted evidence designed to destroy my credibility. And you believe Richard Blackwood was involved? James hesitated. I never knew his name until recently. But about a month before everything fell apart, a representative from GlobeTech approached me about acquiring my research. When I declined, things escalated. GlobeTech, Max repeated. They've been trying to acquire NeuroSync for years, because together your neural interface technology and my visual processing algorithms would create something revolutionary, James said. Something worth billions. Something worth destroying lives for, Max added grimly. As they finished lunch, the security system announced an approaching vehicle. Max tensed, knowing it must be Frank but concerned about the timing. Expecting someone? James asked. Before Max could answer, Martha appeared. Mr. Anderson, there's a delivery at the gate. Security is checking it now. Max nodded, hoping Frank had been discreet enough to pose as a delivery person. Please excuse me for a moment. In the security office near the main entrance, Max waited anxiously. The door opened and a familiar presence filled the room. The scent of leather and gun oil, the measured tread of military-trained footsteps. Your security is a joke, Frank's gruff voice announced without greeting. I got through with a fake delivery van and a clipboard. Your new head of security didn't even check my ID properly. Despite the circumstances, Max smiled. It's good to hear your voice, Frank. Save the sentiment, Frank replied, though his tone had softened slightly. We've got work to do. Your Dr. Thompson is the real deal, by the way. I've been keeping tabs on him for years. This surprised Max. Why would you be monitoring Thompson? Because 3 years ago, right before your accident, I flagged unusual activity around Project Prometheus, external attempts to access secure files, corporate espionage. I traced some of it back to GlobeTech, but there was another player, someone brilliant working independently. That was Thompson. You knew about him all this time. I knew someone was developing parallel technology. Didn't have a name until after I was fired. By then, Thompson was already being systematically destroyed. The pattern was familiar. Familiar how? Frank moved closer, lowering his voice. The same pattern that preceded your sailing accident. Isolation from allies, strategic replacement of staff, compromised security protocols. A chill ran down Max's spine. Are you suggesting my accident wasn't an accident? I'm not suggesting anything, Frank replied, echoing Janet's careful phrasing from the day before. I'm just connecting dots. The same people who wanted Thompson's research wanted yours. When they couldn't get it legitimately, they created situations where you both lost control. Max leaned against the wall, momentarily overwhelmed. Olivia arrived shortly after my accident. Convenient timing, Frank observed. And now she's engaged to a blind billionaire whose company is developing technology worth billions, a man who relies on her for nearly everything. The implications were staggering. Not just corporate espionage or financial fraud, but a coordinated campaign that may have deliberately caused his blindness. "What's our next move?" Max asked, his resolve hardening. "First, we secure your position," Frank said decisively. "I'm bringing in my own team to replace your current security staff. Then we establish surveillance on Olivia and anyone she contacts. Meanwhile, you proceed with Thompson as planned. Let them think you're focused entirely on the medical angle. And what about NeuroSync? If what you're suggesting is true, my company has been compromised for years." "One battlefield at a time," Frank advised. "Secure your home first. The company can wait. Besides, if Thompson's technology works, getting your site back would significantly strengthen your position." Max nodded, then tensed as the door to the security office opened. "Mr. Anderson?" It was Martha. "Ms. Parker is on her way back. She's called twice asking about the guests." Frank moved silently to the corner of the room, clearly not wanting his presence known. "Thank you, Martha," Max replied calmly. "Please tell her I'll meet her in the main house. Our guests are settled in the guest house." After Martha left, Frank spoke quietly. "Your housekeeper. Can she be trusted? Martha's been with me for over 20 years. If she wanted to harm me, she's had ample opportunity. Everyone has their price or their pressure point," Frank warned. "But for now, we'll work with what we have. I'll establish surveillance from the old groundskeeper's cottage. It's isolated enough to serve as a base of operations. Olivia believes it's been empty since Robert was let go." "Perfect. Meet me there tonight at midnight. We'll have more information by then." As Frank slipped away, Max made his way back to the main house, his mind racing with implications. If his blindness had been deliberately caused, could it truly be reversed? And if so, what would his enemies do to prevent that from happening? The sound of Olivia's car pulling up to the entrance forced him to compose himself. He would need to give the performance of his life, pretending normalcy while suspecting the woman he'd planned to marry might be responsible for the darkness that had engulfed him for 5 years. "Darling," Olivia's voice called out as she entered. "I'm home. Tell me all about our mysterious guests." Max smiled in her direction, wondering if she could sense the change in him, the awakening suspicion, the growing resolve. "They're settled in. Dr. Thompson seems quite brilliant. I think his research could be valuable to NeuroSync." Olivia's heels clicked across the marble floor as she approached, her perfume enveloping him as she kissed his cheek. "That's wonderful. I'm so glad you're taking an interest in the company again. You've seemed distant lately." "Have I?" Max kept his tone light. "Perhaps I've just been contemplating changes. New directions." "What kind of changes?" A note of concern entered her voice. "Nothing concrete yet," he deflected. "Just ideas. We should discuss them over dinner. I've asked Martha to prepare something special." "Actually," Olivia said, "I made reservations at Meridian. I thought we could have a night out, just the two of us. It's been too long since we've been social." A strategic move, Max realized, getting him away from the estate, away from the Thompsons, away from whatever she might suspect he was discovering. "That sounds lovely," he lied smoothly. "But perhaps another night? I should be available to our guests on their first evening here." "Surely they can manage one night without you," Olivia persisted, a slight edge entering her voice. "The reservation was difficult to get." "I insist," Max said firmly. "My responsibilities as host take precedence." A tense silence followed, and Max could almost feel Olivia recalculating her approach. "Of course," she finally conceded, her tone warming artificially. "You're right, we can go another time. In fact, why don't I join you? I'd love to meet this brilliant doctor and his daughter." It was the response Max had anticipated. Olivia would want to assess the threat Thompson might pose to whatever plan she was executing. "Perfect," he replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I think it's time you met the man who might help me see again." Dinner that evening was an exercise in carefully managed tension. Olivia was at her charming best, asking James thoughtful questions about his research, complimenting Lily on her intelligence, and playing the perfect hostess. To anyone else, she would have seemed genuinely interested and supportive, but Max, attuned to the subtleties of her voice after years of blindness, detected the calculation beneath her warmth. "So, Dr. Thompson, Olivia said as they enjoyed Martha's pot roast. Max tells me you've developed a revolutionary approach to neural interfaces. It sounds fascinating. Please call me James, he replied. And yes, though I wouldn't use the word revolutionary myself, I've simply approached the problem from a different angle than most researchers. Dad's being modest, Lily interjected. His implant actually works. The monkeys could navigate obstacle courses blindfolded. Monkeys? Olivia's voice betrayed surprise. You've conducted animal trials? I was under the impression your work was still theoretical. The slight shift in her tone confirmed what Max had suspected. Olivia had prior knowledge of Thompson's research, but outdated information. The animal trials were conducted before I left Seattle Memorial, James explained. The results were promising, but as you may know, my professional situation changed before human trials could begin. Yes, I did hear something about that, Olivia said carefully. Some controversy about research methods? False accusations, Max interjected firmly, which is why I'm particularly interested in James's work. NeuroSync values innovation, especially when it's been suppressed by larger interests. A brief silence followed his pointed comment. Well, Olivia recovered smoothly. I think it's wonderful that you're exploring all possibilities, darling. Though I do worry about getting your hopes up. After so many specialists have said your condition is irreversible. Sometimes conventional wisdom is wrong, James said. The medical establishment tends to be conservative in its assessments. And sometimes there's wisdom in accepting limitations, Olivia countered, placing her hand on Max's arm, moving forward rather than looking backward. The statement hung in the air, its dual meaning clear to Max. Was it friendly advice or a subtle warning? I believe in looking in all directions, Max replied, covering her hand with his own. Past, present, and future. Each offers its own insights. After dinner, Olivia suggested drinks in the library, but Max begged off, claiming fatigue. Perhaps you could show James and Lily back to the guest house. I'd like to retire early tonight. Though clearly displeased, Olivia agreed. As they departed, Max retreated to his bedroom, where he activated the security system's monitoring function, allowing him to listen to their conversation on the path to the guest house. Your research sounds promising, Dr. Thompson, Olivia was saying. Though I have to admit, I'm surprised Max is so interested in experimental treatments. He's been resistant to getting his hopes up before. Sometimes the right approach comes along at the right time, James replied diplomatically. And you believe your approach is right for Max's specific condition? Based on what I know, yes, though I'd need to conduct thorough examinations to be certain. Of course, Olivia's voice was honey-sweet, and funding must be a consideration as well. Research like yours can't be inexpensive. Money isn't my primary motivation, James said firmly. Dad wants to help people, Lily added. That's why he keeps working even when those bad companies try to stop him. A brief pause followed. What bad companies would those be? Olivia asked lightly. The ones that stole his research and ruined his reputation, Lily replied, before her father could intervene. Globetech and the others. Lily, James cautioned gently. We don't know for certain who was responsible. But we do know they're still watching us, the girl insisted. That's why we have to be careful. The conversation continued, but they had moved out of range of the monitoring system. Max had heard enough, however. Lily's innocent comment about being watched would put Olivia on alert. The timeline had potentially accelerated. At midnight, Max silently made his way through the hidden garden path to the groundskeeper's cottage. Years of navigating his property in darkness had given him an advantage. He could move confidently without a cane or assistance when on familiar ground. Frank was waiting inside, the cottage transformed into a makeshift command center. The scent of coffee and electronics filled the small space. Your fiancé made 3 calls after dinner, Frank said without preamble. 1 to Richard Blackwood, 1 to an unlisted number routed through multiple proxies, and 1 to a spa confirming a couples massage for tomorrow, presumably to get you off the property. Were you able to hear the conversations? Only with Blackwood. She told him Thompson is here with the prototype. Blackwood responded with concern, asked if the timeline needed adjustment. She assured him everything was under control, but said they should accelerate certain aspects. Max absorbed this information. They're worried, as they should be. My team has secured the perimeter with our own systems, independent of your regular security. 4 of my most trusted people are in place. Thompson and his daughter are under our protection, though they don't know it yet. What about the neural implant? If it works, it changes everything, Frank agreed. But we need to be prepared for attempts to prevent that from happening. What kind of attempts? Frank's voice grew grim. Based on past patterns, anything from sabotage of equipment to more direct interventions. These people arranged a sailing accident that cost you your sight, Max. They destroyed Thompson's career. They're not going to stop because you've invited him for a friendly visit. The bluntness of Frank's assessment hit Max hard. For 5 years he'd lived with the belief that his blindness was an unfortunate accident. Now he had to confront the possibility that it had been deliberately orchestrated. I need to warn James, Max said. Already done, Frank replied. I met with him while you were at dinner. He's aware of the risks. And Lily, she's just a child. A remarkably resilient one. Thompson says she's been his strength through everything. But yes, we've taken extra precautions for her safety. Max nodded, grateful for Frank's thoroughness. What's our next move? Thompson wants to begin preliminary assessments tomorrow. Brain scans, neural mapping. He's converted part of the guest house into a makeshift lab with equipment Janet helped procure. Janet's involved too? We needed someone with access to neurosync resources, Frank explained. She was the logical choice. She's been quietly gathering evidence of financial irregularities for months. Transfers to offshore accounts, unauthorized access to proprietary technology, systematic elimination of security protocols you had established. The scope of the conspiracy was larger than Max had imagined. And all of this connects back to GlobeTech. And beyond, Frank confirmed, there's another player involved. Someone higher up the food chain. We haven't identified them yet, but they're referred to in communications as the consultant. Max rubbed his temples, trying to process all this information. So tomorrow I proceed as planned. Allow Thompson to conduct his assessments while pretending to be oblivious to everything else. Exactly. Give Olivia the impression you're focused solely on the medical angle. Meanwhile, my team continues gathering evidence, and Janet secures NeuroSync's most critical assets against unauthorized access. The strategy made sense, but something still bothered Max. Why now, Frank? If they've had control of the situation for 5 years, why would they feel threatened by Thompson's arrival? They've successfully suppressed his research before. Frank was silent for a moment. That's the question that's been keeping me up at night. The timing suggests they're approaching some kind of endgame. A major move that requires consolidating control of NeuroSync and the neural interface technology. The quarterly board meeting, Max realized suddenly. It's in 3 weeks. There's a vote scheduled on a major strategic partnership. With whom? That's just it. The details have been kept vague. Olivia suggested it was better for me to focus on my health while the executive team handled the preparations. She promised to brief me closer to the date. Frank's low whistle suggested this was significant. A strategic partnership could be a euphemism for a takeover. If they've been systematically replacing your allies on the board, they could vote to approve a merger with GlobeTech, Max finished, or whatever entity this consultant represents. And if you suddenly regained your sight, started asking questions, demanding to review documents, I'd be a significant obstacle, Max concluded, one they've spent years ensuring wouldn't exist. The full picture was becoming clearer, and with it the urgency of their situation. Thompson's treatment wasn't just about restoring Max's vision, it was about preventing the theft of revolutionary technology and the dismantling of everything he'd built. The following morning, Max allowed Olivia to believe he was considering her suggestion of a spa day. It would do you good to relax, she insisted over breakfast. You've been so tense lately. Perhaps you're right, he conceded. Though I should check in with Dr. Thompson first. He mentioned wanting to run some preliminary tests today. Olivia's fork paused midway to her mouth. Tests? What kind of tests? Neural mapping, brain scans, standard procedures before any discussion of treatment options. And where would these tests be conducted? Her voice was casual, but Max could hear the concern underneath. Here, actually. Janet arranged for portable equipment to be delivered to the guest house. Thompson has converted part of it into a lab space. Janet, Olivia's surprise was evident. Your assistant arranged medical equipment. Isn't that rather unorthodox? Max shrugged. Thompson's situation is unorthodox. Given his history with medical institutions, he's more comfortable working independently. Janet was simply helping facilitate. I see. The coolness in Olivia's tone told Max she was recalculating. Well, if you're going to be busy with tests, perhaps I should reschedule our spa appointment. No need, Max replied smoothly. The tests shouldn't take all day. Why don't you confirm for the afternoon, say 2 o'clock? That would give me the morning with Thompson. It was a calculated move. By suggesting a specific time, Max gave Olivia the impression he was unaware of her communications with Blackwood. She would have the opportunity to make calls, believing he would be occupied. Perfect, Olivia agreed, her voice warming again. I'll confirm right after breakfast. An hour later, Max was in the guest house, where James had indeed set up an impressive array of equipment. The space hummed with electronics, and the air smelled of antiseptic and coffee. This is remarkable, Max commented, running his fingers over what felt like a modified MRI console. How did you assemble all this so quickly? Janet is extraordinarily efficient, James replied, and having actual resources after years of improvisation is, well, it's a game changer. Dad stayed up all night calibrating everything, Lily added proudly. He says your brain structure is perfect for the interface. Based on your previous scans, James clarified. Janet provided your medical records, with your pre-approved authorization, of course. Max nodded. He'd given Janet blanket permission to share whatever information Thompson needed. So what happens now? First, detailed mapping of your visual cortex and neural pathways. Then we compare those results with your pre-accident scans to identify exactly how your brain has adapted to blindness. That gives us the baseline for programming the interface. And the interface itself? How soon could that be ready? James hesitated. The prototype exists. I've been refining it for years. But customizing it to your specific neural patterns will take time. Under normal circumstances, I'd say 2 weeks minimum. We don't have 2 weeks, Max said quietly. Frank explained the situation. Yes, James's voice grew serious. He believes there may be attempts to interfere with the treatment. Given my history with these people, I'm inclined to agree. Can you accelerate the timeline? A heavy silence filled the room. Finally, James sighed. There are shortcuts we could take, procedures I could compress, but it increases the risks significantly. What kind of risks? Neurological complications, seizures, rejection of the implant. In the worst case, James trailed off. Permanent brain damage, Lily finished quietly. Dad doesn't like to say it, but that's the risk. Max appreciated her directness. And with the full 2-week protocol? The risks drop to acceptable levels, James explained. Still experimental, but with safety margins I'm comfortable with. And if we aim for something in between, say 1 week? James considered this. Possible, but still riskier than I'd prefer. The brain isn't something to rush with. I understand, Max said, but we need to balance medical caution against other threats. What's the point of a perfectly safe procedure if we're prevented from completing it? You sound like Dad, Lily observed. He always says perfect is the enemy of good enough. James chuckled. A simplified version of my research philosophy, but yes, sometimes we have to accept calculated risks. Then let's proceed with the mapping, Max decided, and aim for a compressed but still responsible timeline. In the meantime, Frank's team will ensure we have the security to complete the work. As they prepared for the first scans, Max's secure phone vibrated in his pocket. A text message from Frank. Olivia on the move, headed to downtown meeting point, team following. The pieces were moving on the board. While Max underwent neural mapping in the guest house, Olivia would be meeting with her co-conspirators, believing him safely distracted. The confrontation was approaching faster than anyone had anticipated. Ready when you are, James announced, guiding Max to a reclining chair surrounded by equipment. This first session will take about 2 hours. We'll be creating a comprehensive map of your visual cortex and the surrounding neural architecture. Max settled into the chair, electrodes being attached to his head by James's careful hands. Lily, will you be assisting? Dad lets me monitor the readings, she replied proudly. I can spot anomalies super fast. He says I have better pattern recognition than his old computer systems. Despite the gravity of the situation, Max smiled. The bond between father and daughter was palpable, forged through hardship and shared purpose. Whatever happened in the coming days, he was grateful to have them as allies. Let's begin, James said, activating the equipment. Try to remain as still as possible, Max. We're about to create the map that will help you see again. As the machines hummed to life around him, Max closed his unseeing eyes. The darkness that had been his constant companion for 5 years might soon be lifted. But first, he would have to navigate the more immediate shadows of betrayal and deception that surrounded him. Across the city, in a private dining room at the exclusive Meridian Club, Olivia Parker was meeting with Richard Blackwood and a third individual, a distinguished-looking man who had not given his name. On the table between them lay a folder containing documents with the NeuroSync logo. "This changes everything," Richard was saying, his voice tense. "If Anderson regains his sight before the board meeting, then we adjust accordingly," the unnamed man replied calmly. "No plan survives contact with the enemy. That's why we have contingencies." Olivia glanced nervously between them. "What kind of contingencies?" The man smiled thinly. "The kind that ensure our investment is protected, Ms. Parker. The kind that made you a wealthy woman these past 5 years." Outside in a parked van, Frank Reynolds and his team photographed the meeting through a telephoto lens, recording every word through a parabolic microphone aimed at the restaurant's windows. "Got you," Frank murmured as the camera shutter clicked repeatedly. "Got you all." 3 days passed in a carefully choreographed dance of deception. Each morning, Max would spend hours with James and Lily in the guest house, undergoing increasingly complex neural assessments and preliminary interface tests. Each afternoon, he would maintain the facade of normalcy with Olivia, who had cancelled the spa appointment in favor of remaining close to the estate. In the late hours of night, he would meet with Frank in the groundskeeper's cottage to review the mounting evidence against his fiancée and her co-conspirators. The neural mapping had been completed more quickly than anticipated, thanks to Lily's remarkable ability to identify patterns and James's expertise. Now they were in the critical phase of programming the interface to match Max's specific neural architecture. "The human brain isn't static," James explained as they worked late into the night. "It's constantly rewiring itself. Your brain has spent 5 years adapting to blindness, creating new pathways, strengthening certain connections while letting others weaken." "Which complicates the interface," Max surmised. "Exactly. We're not just reconnecting existing circuits. We're introducing an entirely new input source that your brain needs to interpret. It's like learning a new language, but at the neurological level." Lily, who had insisted on staying awake despite the late hour, piped up from her workstation. "Dad, I think I found the optimal frequency range for Mr. Anderson's visual cortex. It's different from the standard models." James moved to examine her work, making approving noises. "Good catch, Lily. This is why algorithms alone aren't enough. They miss these subtle variations." Max was continually impressed by their synergy. "How long until we can attempt a trial connection?" James hesitated before answering. "At this pace, 2 more days. We'd be compressing a week's work into 48 hours, but the mapping data is exceptionally clear. Your neural structure is remarkably well preserved for someone blind for 5 years. Almost as if your brain never fully accepted that it couldn't see anymore," Lily added thoughtfully. The observation gave Max pause. He'd never considered that his brain might have been fighting against his condition all along, maintaining pathways that should have atrophied. It felt like a metaphor for his life these past 5 years, appearing to accept his limitations while something deeper refused to surrender. 2 days, Max repeated. "That's cutting it close to the board meeting." "We'll be ready," James assured him. "The prototype is responding well to the customizations. I've never seen integration metrics this promising." As Max prepared to leave the guest house, his secure phone vibrated with a message from Frank. "Urgent. Cottage now. I need to go," Max told James and Lily. "Continue without me if you can. I'll check in tomorrow morning." The night air was cool against his face as he navigated the familiar path to the groundskeeper's cottage. Frank met him at the door, the tension in his voice immediately apparent. "We've identified the consultant," Frank said without preamble. "Edward Voss, former military intelligence, now works as a strategic advisor for several pharmaceutical conglomerates, including Globetech." "The unnamed man from the restaurant meeting," Max recalled. "Yes, but he's much more than just another corporate shark. Voss specializes in acquiring revolutionary technologies by any means necessary. His methods are sophisticated: legal pressure, financial manipulation, targeted character assassination. When those fail, accidents happen. Max felt his stomach tighten. Like sailing accidents. Like sailing accidents, Frank confirmed grimly. He's been on our radar for years, but always operates through layers of proxies, never leaves fingerprints. What changed? How did you identify him? Janet found the connection. She's been analyzing NeuroSync's financial records, looking for discrepancies. 3 separate shell companies all trace back to holding companies controlled by Voss. They've been systematically acquiring small blocks of NeuroSync stock for years, staying just below reporting thresholds. Building a controlling interest without triggering SEC notifications, Max realized. Classic corporate raider strategy. With a twist, Frank added. The upcoming board vote isn't just about a strategic partnership. According to documents Janet accessed, it's a complete acquisition offer from a conglomerate called Nova Biotechnics. I've never heard of them. Because they barely exist. Incorporated 6 months ago, minimal public footprint. But guess who sits on their advisory board? Edward Voss, Max concluded. Along with Richard Blackwood as CFO, it's a sophisticated shell game. Nova acquires NeuroSync, absorbs the neural interface technology, then likely gets folded into Globetech or whatever entity Voss is truly representing. Max processed this information. And Olivia's role? Frank hesitated before answering. Complex. She's definitely involved, but the relationship dynamic suggests she might not know the full scope. In their communications, Blackwood keeps certain details from her. Voss treats her as an asset, not a partner. This aligned with Max's own observations. Olivia was ambitious and calculating, but there had been moments of genuine connection between them. Her betrayal seemed to have layers, not a simple case of pure deception, but something more complicated. There's more, Frank continued. We intercepted communications indicating they're aware of Thompson's progress. They've accelerated their timeline. The board vote has been moved up to next week, and there's mention of a contingency to be implemented within 48 hours if the prototype testing proceeds. What kind of contingency? Unspecified, but given Voss's history, it could range from sabotage to something more direct. We're increasing security around the guest house and implementing round-the-clock surveillance. Max ran a hand through his hair, weighing their options. Thompson thinks we can attempt a trial connection in 2 days. If it works, you'll have visual confirmation of everything we've uncovered, Frank finished. Evidence you can take directly to the authorities or trusted board members, but that's precisely what they're trying to prevent. A plan began forming in Max's mind. What if we let them think they've succeeded? What do you mean? We leak information suggesting Thompson's prototype has failed, that I've given up on the treatment and am focusing on the board meeting instead. It might buy us the time we need. Frank considered this. Risky, they'd want verification, which we can provide. I'll appear disappointed, withdrawn. Tell Olivia the initial tests showed the damage is too extensive for Thompson's approach. Meanwhile, we accelerate the real timeline. It could work, Frank admitted, but you'd be walking a tightrope. One slip and they'll know you're onto them. I've been navigating in darkness for 5 years, Max said with grim determination. I think I can handle a little deception. The next morning, Max returned to the main house after a brief session with James, deliberately projecting an aura of disappointment. He found Olivia in the solarium, pretending to read a magazine while casting frequent glances at her phone. Max, she looked up as he entered. You're back early. How did it go? He sank heavily into a chair, letting his shoulders slump. Not well. The initial interface tests show complications. The neural pathways have deteriorated more than Thompson initially thought. Olivia set down her magazine, moving to kneel beside his chair. Her hand found his, squeezing gently. Oh, darling. I'm so sorry. But you knew this was a long shot, didn't you? The genuine sympathy in her voice was jarring against the backdrop of what he now knew. Was she that skilled an actress? Or was there a fragment of real feeling beneath the deception? Thompson wants to continue refining the approach, Max said, keeping his voice resigned. But he's talking about months of adjustments now, not days. I think I need to accept reality and move forward. That's very wise, Olivia said, relief evident in her tone despite her attempt to hide it. And timely, actually. The board has moved up the strategic partnership vote. Janet called this morning to inform us it's been rescheduled for next Monday. So soon? Why wasn't I consulted? Apparently, the potential partners have a narrow window for the transaction. The board didn't want to disturb you while you were focused on Dr. Thompson's treatment. She squeezed his hand again. But now, perhaps it's for the best. You can turn your attention back to the company. Max nodded slowly. You're right. I should review the partnership details before the vote. Can you ask Janet to send over the complete documentation? A barely perceptible hesitation. Of course, though much of it is rather technical, I could summarize the key points for you. I appreciate that, but I'd like the full documents. My text-to-speech software can handle them. Of course, she repeated, her voice revealing nothing. I'll arrange it right away. As Olivia left to make the call, Max allowed himself a small, grim smile. The seed had been planted. Now they needed to execute the accelerated plan while maintaining the deception. That evening, Olivia announced she needed to attend a charity function in the city. It's the Children's Hospital benefit. I committed months ago. Will you be all right here without me? Of course, Max assured her. I think I'll turn in early anyway. The disappointment with Thompson's treatment has left me drained. I understand, darling. Try to rest. Things will look brighter tomorrow. After ensuring Olivia had departed, Max hurried to the guest house where James and Lily were waiting with Frank. The space had been transformed into an even more sophisticated laboratory, with additional equipment Janet had secured from NeuroSync's research division. We're ready for the preliminary connection, James announced without preamble. The interface is calibrated to your neural patterns, and the visual processing algorithms have been optimized. You said we needed 2 more days, Max reminded him. That was before Frank informed us of the accelerated threat, James replied. We've been working around the clock. The system isn't perfect, but it's functional. We can attempt a basic connection tonight. Max took a deep breath. What exactly should I expect? Nothing like natural vision, James cautioned. The first connection will produce rudimentary visual information, shapes, contrasts, movement. The brain needs time to learn how to interpret the new input channel. Think of it as hearing a foreign language for the first time. You recognize it as communication, but can't yet extract meaning. And the risks at this accelerated pace, James exchanged a glance with Lily before answering. Increased, certainly. There's a greater chance of neural rejection, temporary visual distortions, headaches, in rare cases, seizures. But Dad has built-in safeguards, Lily added quickly. The connection can be terminated instantly if there are any adverse reactions. Frank, who had been monitoring security feeds, spoke up. Olivia's car just left the property, but she's not heading toward the charity event. She's going in the opposite direction, toward Richard Blackwood's residence in Bellevue. Then we have a window of opportunity, Max decided. Let's proceed. The preparation was meticulous. Electrodes were attached to specific points on Max's scalp, and a lightweight apparatus resembling specialized glasses was fitted over his eyes. This device contained miniature cameras and processors that would capture visual information and convert it to neural signals. The external components are temporary, James explained, as he made final adjustments. The permanent version would be surgically implanted, much more discreet. This is essentially a prototype to verify the approach works with your specific neural architecture. Max sat in a specially designed chair, surrounded by monitoring equipment. Lily moved between various screens, checking readings and making small adjustments to settings. Neural activity is stable, she reported. Visual cortex is showing increased responsiveness already, just from the preliminary signals. That's a good sign, James confirmed. Your brain seems eager to see again, Max. Ready for activation? Max nodded, his heart pounding. Ready. Initiating connection in 3, 2, 1. At first there was nothing. The same darkness that had been Max's constant companion for 5 years. Then gradually something began to change. Not quite sight, but a perception of something. Vague impressions of light and shadow, formless and chaotic. I'm getting something, Max said hesitantly. Not clear. Just differences. Light and dark. That's exactly what we'd expect initially, James said, excitement evident in his voice. The visual cortex is receiving input for the first time in years. It needs to remember how to process it. Increasing signal clarity, Lily announced, adjusting settings on her console. Neural acceptance is exceeding projections, Dad. Suddenly the chaotic patterns began to organize themselves, still not true vision. but definite shapes emerged from the darkness. Blocky, monochromatic forms with indistinct edges. I can see shapes, Max breathed. Nothing detailed, but definite forms. There's something rectangular in front of me. That's the main console, James confirmed. Lily, adjust the contrast parameters. As Lily made the adjustments, the shapes became more distinct. Max could now perceive differences in size and distance, though everything remained in shades of grey rather than true color. This is remarkable, Max said, emotion catching in his throat. Even this limited vision is more than I've had in 5 years, and it will improve rapidly, James assured him. The brain's neuroplasticity means it can relearn visual processing much faster than initial development. With regular use of the interface, you could have functional vision within days, not the months or years it would take a child to develop visual acuity. For nearly an hour they conducted tests, identifying objects, perceiving movement, distinguishing basic patterns. By the end, Max could reliably identify simple shapes and detect movement across his visual field. It wasn't true sight yet, but it was proof the system worked. As they carefully disconnected the apparatus, Frank received an alert on his phone. Olivia's car is returning to the estate earlier than expected. Did she actually go to Blackwoods? Max asked. Yes, stayed for approximately 40 minutes. She's now 15 minutes from the property. James carefully removed the last of the electrodes. We've confirmed the interface works with your neural architecture. The next step would be to refine the visual processing algorithms based on today's data. Then we could attempt a more advanced connection. How long for those refinements? Given tonight's results, I could have them ready by tomorrow evening. The neural acceptance rates are far better than I anticipated. Max made a quick decision. Then we proceed as planned. Tomorrow night we attempt a full connection. Meanwhile, I maintain the deception that Thompson's approach has failed. Be careful, Frank warned. If Olivia suspects you're faking disappointment. I've spent 5 years learning to live without seeing people's faces, Max replied grimly. I've become quite good at controlling what my own face reveals. Back in the main house, Max was in his study when he heard Olivia return. Her footsteps paused outside his door before she knocked gently. Max, are you still awake? Come in, he called, quickly closing the secure files he'd been reviewing through his audio interface. The door opened, bringing with it Olivia's familiar perfume. The benefit ended earlier than expected, she explained, moving to kiss his cheek. How are you feeling? Better, he replied truthfully. I've had time to process the disappointment. Tomorrow I'll speak with Thompson about winding down the experiments. That seems wise, Olivia agreed, relief evident in her voice. And I've arranged for Janet to send over the partnership documents first thing in the morning. Perhaps we could review them together. I'd like that, Max said, reaching for her hand and giving it a gentle squeeze. Thank you for your patience through all this, Olivia. I know my obsession with treatments hasn't been easy. She sat on the arm of his chair, her fingers running through his hair, in a gesture that once brought comfort. All I want is for you to be happy, Max, to move forward with our life together. As she spoke, Max detected the faint scent of unfamiliar cologne beneath her perfume, presumably Blackwood's. The physical evidence of her deception should have angered him, but instead he felt an odd sense of clarity. For the first time in years he was seeing the truth even without his eyes. Forward, he echoed, smiling up toward her. That's exactly where we're heading. The morning arrived with a sense of barely contained anticipation. For Max, every interaction now carried dual significance, the words spoken aloud and the undercurrents of deception flowing beneath them. Breakfast with Olivia felt like a high-stakes chess match, each casual comment a move on an invisible board. The partnership documents should arrive by 9, Olivia mentioned as they drank their coffee on the terrace. I've scheduled a call with the board's legal counsel at 11 to walk you through any questions. Thoughtful as always, Max replied, with a carefully measured smile. Though I'm sure my questions can wait until the actual meeting, I'd prefer to review the materials independently first. A slight tension in Olivia's voice. Of course, I just thought it might be helpful to have expert guidance, given the complexity. I managed to build NeuroSync from nothing while sighted, Max reminded her gently. I think I can review a partnership agreement while blind. The implied rebuke hung in the air for a moment before Olivia recovered. You're absolutely right. I sometimes forget what you're capable of. Her hand covered his on the table. That's what I love about you, Max. Your determination. After breakfast, Max informed Olivia he would be meeting with Thompson to formally conclude their collaboration. It seems only fair to thank him properly and discuss possible future research directions, even if this particular approach didn't work for me. Do you want me to join you? Olivia offered, though Max could hear the reluctance beneath her solicitous tone. No need. This is between Thompson and me. Besides, didn't you mention a lunch with your charity committee today? I did, she confirmed, clearly relieved to have an excuse. The Children's Hospital Fundraising Committee. I should probably start getting ready. As Olivia departed for her committee lunch, which Frank's team would later confirm was actually another meeting with Blackwood and Voss, Max made his way to the guest house. Inside, James and Lily were already at work, surrounded by holographic displays showing neural patterns and interface schematics. Good morning, James greeted him. We've been analyzing yesterday's results. The neural acceptance rates were remarkable, nearly twice what I'd typically expect for a first connection. Dad says your brain is super adaptable, Lily added enthusiastically, like it was just waiting for the right input to start seeing again. Max smiled at her characterization. And the refinements for today's attempt? Nearly complete, James replied. Based on your specific neural responses, we've customized the visual processing algorithms to match your brain's preferred patterns. The result should be much clearer visual information, still not perfect but significantly improved. When can we try? The system will be ready by early evening. However, James hesitated, I need to emphasize that this is still highly experimental. The risks increase with the complexity of the visual information we're introducing. I understand the risks, Max assured him. But we're racing against time now. Frank's team has intercepted communications suggesting Voss and Blackwood are planning to implement their contingency tonight or tomorrow morning. What kind of contingency? Lily asked, concern evident in her voice. Max had debated whether to shield the child from the full truth, but her direct question deserved an honest answer. We're not certain, but it could include attempts to sabotage your father's equipment, or even more direct intervention to prevent the treatment from succeeding. James placed a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. Perhaps Lily should stay with Martha in the main house tonight. No way, Lily protested immediately. I'm your assistant. You need me for the calibrations. Your safety is more important than... Actually, Max interrupted gently, Frank has suggested a different approach. His team has prepared secure transportation to take Lily to Janet's apartment in the city. It's a controlled location, away from whatever might happen here, but still allowing Lily to participate remotely through a secured connection. James considered this compromise. A remote connection would work for the monitoring aspects. She could still analyze the data streams in real time. And I'd be safe, Lily added, clearly trying to sound mature despite her obvious disappointment at being sent away. Dad, you know I can do the analysis from anywhere. The pattern recognition doesn't need me to be physically present. After some discussion, the plan was settled. Lily would leave with one of Frank's security team in the early afternoon, ostensibly for a tour of the NeuroSync facilities with Janet. Meanwhile, preparations for the evening's full interface connection would continue. Throughout the day, Max maintained his facade of resignation about the failed treatment, while reviewing the partnership documents Janet had delivered. As he'd suspected, the agreement was essentially a hostile takeover, disguised as a strategic alliance. Nova Biotechnics would acquire controlling interest in NeuroSync, with provisions that would gradually push out existing management and consolidate ownership of all intellectual property. Most disturbing were the clauses relating to legacy leadership, bureaucratic language that would effectively remove Max from any meaningful role while maintaining the appearance of respecting the founder's position. Had he not known what to look for, the provisions might have seemed reasonable. Accommodations for his disability, rather than systematic exclusion. By late afternoon, all the pieces were in position. Lily had been safely escorted to Janet's apartment, equipped with secure connections to the guest house systems. Frank's team had established a protective perimeter around the property, with special attention to the guest house and access routes. Martha had been discreetly informed of potential security concerns and given instructions for emergency protocols. Max returned to the main house briefly before the scheduled interface attempt, finding Olivia in their bedroom, preparing for what she described as a quick dinner with friends. "You're going out again?" he asked, keeping his tone casual. "That's the third evening this week." "Just a small gathering at Caroline's," Olivia replied smoothly. "You remember Caroline from the hospital charity board? She's hosting a few of us to discuss the upcoming gala." "I won't be late." Max nodded, knowing that Frank's team would be tracking her movements. "I may not be awake when you return. The disappointment with Thompson's treatment has been more draining than I expected. I think I need an early night." "Of course, darling." She approached, kissing him lightly. "Rest is the best thing for you now. Tomorrow we can focus on the board meeting and moving forward." After Olivia departed, Max waited 30 minutes to ensure she was truly gone before making his way to the guest house. Frank met him halfway, accompanying him along the garden path. "Olivia's headed to Blackwood's residence again," Frank reported quietly. "We've identified 3 unknown vehicles approaching from different directions, all maintaining distance from the property, but establishing what appears to be a surveillance pattern." "Voss's people?" "Almost certainly. They're professional, military or ex-intelligence from their movements. My team is tracking them, but we're keeping our presence minimal to avoid alerting them." Inside the guest house, James had transformed the main room into what resembled a surgical suite. The interface equipment had been refined, looking more streamlined than the previous day's version. Multiple screens displayed neural mappings, real-time brain activity monitors, and visual processing algorithms. "We're connected to Lily," James explained, indicating a large monitor showing the girl's face. She waved enthusiastically from Janet's apartment. "All systems are green, Mr. Anderson," she called. "I've been monitoring the neural interface remotely, and everything looks super stable." Despite the tension of the situation, Max smiled at her enthusiasm. "Thank you, Lily. I'm grateful for your help." As Max was settled into the specialized chair, James attached the electrodes with practiced precision. "This connection will be significantly stronger than yesterday's test. The visual information will be much richer, more complex. Your brain may find it overwhelming at first." "I'm prepared," Max assured him, though his racing heart suggested otherwise. After 5 years of darkness, the prospect of truly seeing again, even in a limited capacity, was both thrilling and terrifying. "The process will be gradual," James continued, adjusting the specialized glasses that housed the cameras and processors. "We'll start with basic light perception, then slowly increase complexity. At any point, if you feel discomfort, simply say, 'Pause,' and we'll halt the progression." From the monitor, Lily's voice came clearly. "Neural pathways are optimally aligned. Baseline activity is perfect." "Then we're ready," James said, his voice taking on a formal quality, initiating visual interface in 3, 2, 1. Like the previous day, Max's perception began with vague impressions of light and shadow. Unlike before, however, these rapidly coalesced into more defined shapes. The blocky, monochromatic forms gained definition, edges becoming clearer, proportions more accurate. "I'm seeing the room," Max reported, his voice tight with emotion. "Not clearly, but I can distinguish the equipment, the walls, the windows." "Perfect," James responded, monitoring the neural activity displays. "Your visual cortex is processing the input remarkably well. Lily, increase resolution by 20%. "Increasing now," Lily confirmed from the monitor. The change was immediate and dramatic. Suddenly Max could perceive depth more accurately. The flat, shadowy world gained dimension. He could tell how far away objects were, could perceive the spatial relationships between them. "This is incredible," he breathed. "Everything has form now, substance." "Your neural acceptance is exceeding all parameters," James said, excitement evident in his voice. "Lily, let's introduce limited color spectrum." As Lily made the adjustments, Max gasped. After years of darkness, then hours of grayscale perception, the sudden introduction of color, even in a limited palette, was overwhelming. Tears formed in his eyes as blues, greens, and reds bloomed across his visual field. "I can see color," he whispered, voice breaking. "My God, I can see color." "Dad!" Lily's excited voice came from the monitor. "His visual cortex is lighting up like Times Square, all regions fully engaged." "Remarkable," James murmured, adjusting settings. "Max, we're going to gradually increase resolution and color range. Remember, you can say pause at any time." Over the next hour, Max's visual perception was progressively enhanced. The world around him became increasingly clear, though still not matching natural vision. Objects had defined shapes and colors, but fine details remained blurry. Faces were recognizable as faces, though features remained indistinct. "I can see you," Max said to James, studying the man who had restored his connection to the visual world. "Not clearly, but I can see your outline, your movements. Your lab coat is white, your hair is brown? With grey?" "That's right," James confirmed, clearly moved by Max's progress. "The visual information is being processed correctly. Your brain remembers how to see." As the final adjustments were made, Max turned toward the large monitor displaying Lily's face. Though the details were still fuzzy, he could perceive her smile, her animated expressions as she monitored his neural activity. "Hello, Lily," he said, smiling at the image. "It's good to finally see you." The girl's face lit up with joy. "You can see me. Really see me." "Yes," Max confirmed. "Not perfectly, but yes. Thank you for everything you've done." The moment was interrupted by Frank's urgent voice from the security monitoring station. "Movement on the perimeter. 3 teams approaching from different directions. They're making no attempt at stealth. This looks like a direct approach." James's expression darkened. "Voss's contingency?" "Almost certainly," Frank confirmed. "My team is in position, but they're outnumbered. We need to move Max back to the main house immediately." "But the interface calibration isn't complete," James protested. "We need at least another 30 minutes to stabilize the settings." "We don't have 30 minutes, Frank insisted. "These aren't corporate security. They're moving like special forces. Professional, coordinated. This is a tactical operation." Max made a swift decision. "Can I keep the interface active while we move?" James hesitated. "It's risky. The settings are still being fine-tuned. Any disruption could cause neural feedback, possibly sensory overload." "I'll take that risk," Max decided. "If we're interrupted now, we may not get another chance." As Frank coordinated the security response, James quickly modified the interface apparatus, making it more portable. "This is far from ideal," he warned, "but it should maintain connection while we move. The visual input will be unstable, possibly disorienting." "I understand," Max replied, rising carefully from the chair. With his newly granted partial vision, he could navigate the room without assistance for the first time in 5 years. The experience was surreal, like walking through a world that was part reality, part impressionist painting. Frank led them through a rear exit, following a path that skirted the main garden. Through his imperfect vision, Max could make out shadowy figures moving at the property's edge, Voss's teams advancing methodically toward the guest house. "They're heading for the lab equipment," Frank observed grimly. "Sabotage, as we suspected." "Let them have it," Max replied. "The critical research is already backed up on secure servers, and the prototype is with us." As they hurried toward the main house, Max's visual feed became increasingly unstable. Images jumped and blurred, colors intensified, then faded. James monitored a portable device tracking the neural connection. "Your brain is struggling with the inconsistent input," he explained tensely. "We need to stabilize you soon." They reached the main house through a side entrance, Frank leading them to Max's secure study. Once inside, James quickly reconnected the interface to more stable power and adjusted the settings. "Neural patterns stabilizing," he reported with relief. "No permanent damage, but we should complete the calibration process as soon as possible." On the secure communication line, Lily's worried voice came through. "Dad, what's happening? I lost connection briefly." "We're in the main house," James reassured her. "Continuing the process here. Resume monitoring on secure channel beta." As James worked to complete the calibration, Frank's team reported that Voss's operatives had entered the guest house, systematically disabling or destroying the equipment left behind. Their coordinated approach confirmed these weren't ordinary corporate security, but specialized operatives trained for precision tasks. "They're being careful not to cause a disturbance that would attract outside attention," Frank noted. "Professional, contained operation. They'll disable the equipment, then withdraw without confrontation if possible." "Let them think they've succeeded," Max said. "For now, our priority is completing the interface calibration." Over the next 20 minutes, James finalized the settings that would allow Max's brain to properly process the visual information from the interface. The images stabilized, becoming clearer and more consistent. Though still not matching natural vision, Max could now reliably perceive his environment, recognize faces, and navigate without assistance. The connection is stable, James announced finally. Your brain has accepted the interface. With continued use, your visual processing will improve naturally as neural pathways strengthen. Max moved to the window, looking out at his property for the first time in 5 years. Though details were still fuzzy at a distance, he could see the outline of the guest house, the sweeping lawns, the old oak tree where he'd first met Lily. The security lights illuminated Voss's teams as they withdrew, mission apparently accomplished. They're leaving, he observed. They think they've succeeded in preventing the treatment. Which gives us an advantage, Frank noted. They don't know you can see. The implications were significant. For the first time since this began, Max had an edge his opponents weren't aware of. He turned from the window, studying the room that had been his sanctuary for years, seeing the objects he'd known only by touch, the colors he'd remembered but not experienced. His gaze fell on a framed photograph he'd kept on his desk. Through his new, imperfect vision, he could make out his own face from years ago, standing beside a woman he didn't recognize. Not Olivia, but his ex-wife from before the accident. A life and a person he'd almost forgotten. What now? James asked, breaking the moment of reflection. Now we prepare for Olivia's return, Max replied, and for the confrontation that's been 5 years in the making. They didn't have long to wait. Within an hour, security alerted them to Olivia's car approaching the gate. Frank's team confirmed she was alone, likely unaware of the operation that had just occurred at the guest house. She can't know I can see, Max said, removing the interface apparatus with James's help. Not yet. We need her to believe the treatment failed completely, and Voss's team succeeded in destroying the equipment. The neural pathways have been established, James explained, storing the device in a concealed case. Even without the interface, your brain has begun to adapt. When we reconnect it tomorrow, the visual processing will be even more effective. As Olivia's footsteps approached the study, Max resumed his position in his familiar chair, adopting the posture and mannerisms she would expect from her blind fiancé. Frank and James retreated to an adjoining room, monitoring through a hidden system. "Max," Olivia called, entering the study. "You're still awake. I thought you were resting." Though he couldn't see her clearly without the interface, the memory of her appearance from hours earlier remained fresh in his mind. For the first time in their relationship, he had a visual reference for the woman who had planned to control his life and steal his company. "Couldn't sleep," he replied, maintaining his role. "Too much on my mind. How was your dinner with Caroline?" A barely perceptible hesitation. "Lovely, just a small group discussing the gala." "I'm glad you enjoyed it," Max said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Please sit. There's something I need to discuss with you." Olivia settled into the chair, her perfume, Chanel No. 5 as always, wafting toward him. "You sound serious. Is everything all right?" "I've been reviewing the Nova Biotechnics partnership documents," Max said calmly. "I have some concerns about certain provisions." Tension immediately filled the air. "Concerns? What kind of concerns?" "Clauses that would effectively remove me from operational control while maintaining the appearance of respecting my position. Provisions for legacy leadership that read more like a structured exit strategy." He leaned forward slightly. "Olivia, why would my own board present an agreement that so clearly undermines my authority?" Her response was smooth, practiced. "Max, darling, I think you're misinterpreting. Those provisions are designed to respect your condition, to ensure you're not burdened with operational details that might be difficult given your limitations." "My blindness, you mean?" His voice remained calm. "The convenient disability that's made me so dependent on others, on you." "I don't like your tone," Olivia said, a defensive edge entering her voice. "Everything I've done has been for your benefit, to make your life easier." "Has it?" Max asked softly. "Or has it been to make me more controllable, more isolated, more dependent?" "That's absurd," she protested, but her voice had lost its usual confidence. "Why would I want that?" "Perhaps for the same reason you've been meeting with Richard Blackwood and Edward Voss instead of attending charity functions. The same reason you've systematically replaced my loyal staff with people who report to you rather than me." Complete silence followed his statement. When Olivia finally spoke, her voice had changed entirely, the warmth replaced by cold calculation. "What exactly are you implying, Max?" "I'm not implying anything," he replied. I'm stating facts. You, Richard Blackwood and Edward Voss, have orchestrated a systematic campaign to gain control of NeuroSync and its neural interface technology. You've manipulated my board, isolated me from allies, and are now attempting to complete the takeover through Nova Biotechnics. Olivia's laugh was bitter. And you've discovered all this while blind? How convenient. I've had help, Max acknowledged. Loyal people who recognized what was happening and gathered evidence. People like Janet Stevens, Frank Reynolds, and Martha, all of whom you tried to remove from my life. You can't prove any of this, Olivia said, though uncertainty had crept into her voice. Actually, I can. Max reached for a folder on his desk, sliding it toward her. Financial records showing your connections to Blackwood dating back to before my accident. Communications between Voss's shell companies and board members who suddenly began opposing my initiatives. Evidence of systematic tampering with NeuroSync's research archives, specifically targeting Project Prometheus. As Olivia leafed through the documents, her composure crumbled further. This doesn't mean anything. Business relationships, nothing more. There's more, Max continued. Security footage of your meetings with Blackwood and Voss over the past week. Recorded conversations discussing the contingency if Dr. Thompson's treatment showed promise. A detailed timeline of how my accident occurred shortly after I began questioning financial irregularities involving Blackwood. Olivia stood abruptly. You've been spying on me, having me followed. I've been protecting myself, Max corrected. Something I should have done years ago before I allowed a beautiful home care assistant to become the center of my isolated world. You have no idea what you're doing, Olivia warned, her voice hardening. The people involved in this go far beyond Blackwood or even Voss. There are interests at stake you can't begin to comprehend. Try me, Max challenged. I built a neural technology empire from nothing. I think I can comprehend corporate warfare. This isn't just about corporate interests, Olivia hissed. The technology you and Thompson have been developing has military applications that make it a matter of national security. Why do you think Voss is involved? He doesn't work for Globetech. They work for him, or rather for the interests he represents. This was new information, but Max kept his expression neutral. And where do you fit in this grand conspiracy, Olivia? Just a pawn they placed in my path. For the first time, genuine emotion broke through her facade. I was never just a pawn. I saw an opportunity and I took it. Do you have any idea what it's like to grow up with nothing? To have to fight for every scrap of recognition? I earned my position in your life by lying to me from the moment we met, by helping orchestrate the takeover of my company, by pretending to love me. The last accusation seemed to hit hardest. Olivia turned away, facing the window. It wasn't all pretense, she said quietly. Not at the end. But it was at the beginning, Max observed, when you first came into my life right after the accident that conveniently left me blind and vulnerable. She didn't deny it. The plan was simple at first. Gain your trust, help guide NeuroSync's research away from avenues that threaten certain interests, eventually position the company for acquisition. Your blindness made it easier, of course. Of course, Max echoed bitterly. But you weren't what I expected, Olivia continued, still facing away from him. You were supposed to be broken, dependent. Instead, you adapted, maintained dignity, kept fighting. It was admirable. Somewhere along the way, the lines blurred. Not enough to stop you from betraying me. Olivia turned back to face him. We're all prisoners of our choices, Max. Once you're in deep enough with people like Voss, there's no walking away. Surely you understand that. What I understand, Max said, rising from his chair, is that tomorrow morning, all of this evidence will be presented to the FBI, the SEC, and trusted members of the NeuroSync board. The Nova Biotechnics deal will be exposed for what it is, and everyone involved will face consequences. You're making a terrible mistake, Olivia warned. Voss isn't someone you can simply outmaneuver with corporate tactics or legal filings. I'm not trying to outmaneuver him, Max replied calmly. I'm simply bringing his operation into the light. From what I understand, the kind of people Voss works for prefer to operate in shadows. Exposure is their greatest vulnerability. Olivia studied him with newfound wariness. You've changed. Something's different. Max allowed himself a small smile. Perhaps I've finally opened my eyes. For a long moment they stood in silence, 5 years of deception and manipulation hanging between them. Finally Olivia reached for her purse. I should leave, she said quietly. There's nothing more to discuss. Actually, there is one more thing, Max replied. He reached into his desk drawer and removed a small recording device, placing it on the table between them. This conversation has been recorded. You might want to consider your options carefully, Olivia. Cooperation with authorities tends to be viewed favorably in these situations. Her expression hardened. Is that what you want? For me to turn on them? What I want, Max said honestly, is to understand why. Was it really just opportunity? Or was there something more personal? Did I wrong you somehow without knowing it? Olivia laughed, a genuine if bitter sound. Not everything is about you, Max. Sometimes people have their own stories, their own reasons. Mine began long before I met you. Then tell me, help me understand. She hesitated, seemingly weighing her options. My father worked for a company that Neurosync acquired in its early days. He was laid off in the restructuring. He never recovered. Lost everything. Started drinking. Our family fell apart. When Blackwood approached me with information about you, about Neurosync's vulnerabilities, it felt like karma. Revenge, then, Max said quietly. Justice, from my perspective, Olivia corrected. But like I said, it got complicated. You weren't the corporate monster I'd built up in my mind. You were just a man. Brilliant, determined, but ultimately just a man trying to build something meaningful. And yet you continued with the plan. By then, I was in too deep to walk away. Voss made that very clear. Max considered her words, searching for truth among the manipulations. The recording device is real, Olivia. So is the evidence. But there's still a choice to be made here by both of us. She raised an eyebrow. What kind of choice? Cooperate fully. Help us expose Voss's entire operation, and I'll ensure your cooperation is recognized. Your involvement portrayed as coercion rather than willing participation. And why would you offer me that after everything? Max thought carefully before answering. Because, despite everything, I believe there was some truth between us, some genuine connection, however compromised by the circumstances. Olivia studied him for a long moment. You're a remarkable man, Maxwell Anderson. In another life, perhaps things could have been different. Perhaps, he agreed, but we have to live in this one. She nodded slowly. I'll consider your offer. That's all I can promise for now. As Olivia left the study, Frank and James emerged from the adjoining room. Frank looked skeptical. You believe her story about her father? Parts of it, Max replied, enough to understand her initial motivation. The rest, time will tell, and her offer to consider cooperation is likely a stalling tactic, Max acknowledged. She'll contact Voss and Blackwood immediately. Warn them. Try to salvage what she can of their operation. Which is exactly what we anticipated, Frank noted with satisfaction. My team is monitoring all communications. Her warning will help us map the full extent of their network. James looked concerned. What about the military connection she mentioned? If Voss truly represents government interests, then we have an even stronger reason to bring everything into the public eye, Max said firmly. Neural interface technology has the potential to help millions of people with sensory impairments. I won't allow it to be weaponized or controlled by shadow interests. Later that night, after securing the evidence and making final preparations for the next day's revelations, Max stood alone in his bedroom. Tomorrow would bring chaos, legal battles, media scrutiny, potentially threats from whatever powers Voss represented. But for the first time in 5 years, he felt ready to face it all. In the morning, James would reconnect the interface, giving Max the visual confirmation of the evidence they'd gathered. Janet had prepared secure channels to trusted board members and federal authorities. Frank's team had established protective protocols for everyone involved, particularly for Lily, who remained safely at Janet's apartment. As Max prepared for bed, he thought about the journey that had brought him here. 5 years of darkness had taught him to see truth in ways sight alone never could. He had lost his vision, but gained insight, had been betrayed, but found true loyalty, had nearly lost everything but discovered what truly mattered. Tomorrow, Maxwell Anderson would step back into the light, not just as a man who had regained his sight, but as someone who had learned to see beyond appearances. The neural interface James had developed would give him a new way of perceiving the world, different from natural vision but no less valuable. a metaphor perhaps for how adversity had transformed his perspective on everything. The old oak tree where he'd first met Lily stood visible from his bedroom window. Though he couldn't see it clearly without the interface, he knew it was there, strong, enduring, its roots deep and secure, like the truth they had uncovered, like the connections that had sustained him through darkness. And that, Max reflected as he drifted toward sleep, was the most profound insight of all. True vision wasn't just about perceiving light and color and form. It was about seeing the connections that mattered, the loyalty of friends like Frank and Janet, the courage of a man like James Thompson, who refused to abandon his principles, the remarkable spirit of a child like Lily, who saw possibilities where others saw only limitations. Tomorrow would bring its challenges. But for tonight, Maxwell Anderson rested in the knowledge that he had already overcome the greatest one, the darkness that had threatened to define him. Instead, he had defined it, navigated it, and ultimately transcended it. In the end, he hadn't just learned to see again. He had learned to see more clearly than ever before.